Hi everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's Community Talk Show. We are back again with a special guest from the community, and today that guest is Ezlerh Oreste. He is a photographer, videographer, a musician, a performer, and a freelance producer. He's also done a bit of clowning and stand-up comedy over the years. Born in Mexico, Ezlerh came to America at 9 years old, and he came to Brattleboro in 2014. He is here right now. Hi, Ezlerh.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
And you are pretty used to being in the BCTV studios and station doing various things that we are going to talk about. Early years, going back to Mexico, you were born in Veracruz, Mexico, and you lived there till you were 9, so you have memories of being there.
Yeah. I feel like those were just everything, the culture, the sounds, the music, the food. Like I loved it. I mean, it was fun.
And so you came to America with your mom and one of your sisters. And why did you come to America then?
I came because back then it was very hard to get out of escape poverty, and my mom just wanted to have a better opportunity and moved to Texas, and then brought me and my sister along.
Did things change a lot for you then?
Yeah, I felt like, back when I was in Mexico, I had a pretty, stable, family, relatives, and economically I was well off. We were well off because my mom would work and come back, and we had I wouldn't say middle class kind of status to coming back to the U.S. where we were not as well. And just to see that contrast, and plus, no delicious food and culture and music and all the stuff that I liked.
Yeah.
And my grandma. Yeah.
Oh, so you left an extended family there.
Yeah, everybody else stayed. And my dad too. So.
And your dad. And did you get to see them? Did you get to go back and forth?
No, I was documented, so I couldn't really go back and visit. So it took me 18 years.
Wow.
To come back.
Wow. So you were grown up by the time you went back.
Oh yeah, I was married. I was living here in Vermont.
Yep. And you didn't see your siblings or your dad in that period of time?
Well, my sister was with me, and my older sister, who was born in the U.S., with my mom remarried, and I had my sister Nicole, who now is a tattoo artist in town. Anybody wants to get a tattoo from my sister?
Oh, really?
Dog. And my older brother, my dad had another, my brother, in Mexico.
So you get to Texas, and you don't speak the language, right? And you're in what, probably about 4th, 5th grade, something like that?
5th grade, yeah.
5th grade. And how did you manage with that?
I took classes as what is it called? English as a ESL. English as a second language, all the way into 9th grade. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have had that 9th grade, because I think by 8th grade I had it pretty much figured out.
Right.
It took me I think I'm still figuring it out, to be honest.
I think we're all still figuring it out. Was it hard to fit into the cultural scene, the kids scene?
Yeah, I mean, the kids in Texas kind of look like me, but they, in Texas, there's this deep hatred towards Mexicans, mainly because, the whole history of how they became Texas. And so there's different stories that I knew. I was told this story from the Mexican perspective of the Alamo.
Right.
There's a bunch of racist people that took over and just started killing all these people like criminals. And then from the years there's this army that came and killed us all. So there's people remember the Alamo differently.
Yes, that's right.
So I was able to see both ways and be okay, well, also you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was hard to cope with that.
Yeah. What did you get into at that age? What kinds of activities were you doing?
I was I thought I was going to be a soccer star. I was I'm going to play soccer, and I'm going to be super good, and then I'm going to go and be professional, and then I'm going to play with the Mexican national team, and then I'm going to win a World Cup in 2018 at the time.
2018?
That was my goal. Or 2014, I forgot what it was. But I had a goal, a specific goal of when I was going to be a world champion with Mexico. But that didn't happen.
Did you play soccer in America?
Yeah, played all the way through junior year of high school. And then that's when I became a thespian.
A thespian. And also, I think you mentioned that your life kind of turned around at some point during high school. That probably getting used to the language and the culture, for one thing, was part of that. But also, you were class president at some point.
Yeah. So because I was a thespian, I started winning all these awards for the high school, and the faculty, everybody kind of, oh, you're like, let's put you up here. So everybody saw me, and it was like, hanging out with like the people that only spoke Spanish to all of a sudden be like, everybody knew who I was. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can take advantage of this.
Yeah.
So I decided to run for president my senior year, won. And so my last year of high school, I was like really popular, which was cool because like I was not, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
So that was fun. My last year was really fun.
Yeah. After you graduated from high school, what were the opportunities for you then?
Well, I got accepted into college, Stephen F. Austin, and so I really wanted to go. I really wanted to, like, I've always wanted to be, like, what I wanted to learn was to be a doctor. But as soon as I got there, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to afford it. So I only did a semester, and then I dropped out, and then my options were, like, work, construction, low wage, McDonald's maybe under the table, anything under the table because I was undocumented.
Yeah.
And I decided to go against that, and I made my own business as a birthday clown. I figured out I was with my girlfriend, and I was like, hey, listen, I have this idea. I'm gonna be a clown. And like I told them my whole business plan. She thought I was crazy. My mom, I was like, hey, mom gets my back. She's gonna say yes. And she's like, you're crazy. I was like, okay. My friends will definitely have my back, and I told them, and they were like, you're crazy. So everybody that meant something to me said no, and I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. So I just did a website. I put some ads on Craigslist. I learned how to do face painting, balloons online.
Yep.
And 2 weeks later, I had my first gig.
And then the business actually kind of rolled from there, right?
Yeah, I started like getting 3-4 gigs, during the weekend, and it was great. Business was good.
You learned how to perform in a different kind of way for different kinds of crowds.
Yeah, and languages and cultures, and I just kind of saw this diversity of like, Austin is very diverse, so I just.
Right.
And all kinds of socioeconomic,
Right.
Like one time I went to a party and there was like, one girl, and a couple of friends. And then pretty much like 2 weeks later, I was performing like for like this small town with like the, mayor and like the chief of police, fire, like all these important people of the town. And I'm like, oh, hey, then there's 3,000 people. Yeah. And I'm the host. So yeah, it was really interesting.
It feels like you were following a vision that you had, whether you kind of knew it or not, but you really felt like you were going to be able to do this.
Oh yeah, like my skill did not match my confidence. I was very confident that I could do it, even though I wasn't that skilled. I think over time I have more skills now than I think, and I've matched a little bit more of my confidence because I was way too confident to like do the things I was doing because I just made it up, and people were paying me money to figure it out.
Well, that's a skill in itself. It's definitely a talent, to be able to do that. And that's improv as well. You're constantly doing improv of one kind or another. And you also started doing some stand-up comedy.
I started doing stand-up comedy back when I was 17, right after I got second place at a talent show in school. And so I was like, oh, maybe I can do stand-ups. I started going to comedy clubs. They were all over 21 and older, but they allowed me to go in because, I don't know, they were cool about it.
Ezlerh, during this time, you're in high school, coming out of high school, you're working in adult places, you're undocumented. Was that an issue for you back then?
It was, I wanted to have regular jobs that I couldn't, like there was jobs that I just couldn't do. Yeah. Like I couldn't do. So, and I stayed away from those jobs. Yeah. And which again, I was a clown, I was a mime, I worked at a haunted house scaring people, anything that didn't, I just didn't want to work hard. I just wanted to do what I love to do. Yeah. That was hard to find, because again, I was doing it by myself. So yeah, it was limited to what I could do.
That's right. You were self-creating all this. You weren't working with anybody or for anybody. No. But it also sounds like you were enjoying all of this.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. Yeah. I think that's when really like had time to like figure out what life is, you know, like
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah.
What is who I am? Like what is this, you know? What is this reality to begin with?
Yeah.
And at that time, I would watch a lot of PBS, and I saw this woman that taught yoga classes.
Uh-huh.
So I started doing yoga, meditation, and that changed my life.
It did. It did. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I started doing, you know, from TV, I started doing like more meditation by myself, and then I was like, I need like actual people. So I started going to yoga classes and gatherings about meditations and stuff. And one day I had this massive, like life-changing consciousness altering, you know, moment where like, I don't know how to describe it, and maybe some people might know this, but it felt like I was just one with the whole universe. And I was just meditating and drinking tea, you know? And all of a sudden, like, boom, like, whoa, what is this? You know, it would only last like 20 seconds, but it changed my life. And I was like, what was that? Like,
Yeah.
how can I get back there?
Yeah.
And pretty much my whole life since then has been like, let's get back to that thing.
Yeah.
So I've been following that feeling, and I think it's led me to this.
Led to where you are now in your life, yes. And along the way, you know, I mean, people refer to that kind of thing as, you know, following a path or finding yourself or that kind of thing. And it seems like that has been a thread since you were was that late teens, early 20s, probably?
Yeah, I was like 20.
And were there other groups that were also big influences for you?
I mean, there was definitely been like major like groups that I've been part of briefly and come out and like just. I feel like my like groups are awesome, you know, and I love them. But I've always felt like this kind of like wanting to like just be brief and come back in and out. You know? Like I just don't want to like. I just felt like for a while there was all this like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, and all my energy was for the groups. You know, I understand it. You know, it's fun, collaborate. But it wasn't like what I wanted, you know, what I wanted to like grow and I don't know if that makes any sense. So there's been groups that have, you know, been.
Well, I think too, it's when you get that kind of experience you had in your early 20s, when you know you have a feeling of real oneness, and you want to get back there, and then you find out that there are these other people who are searching as well and looking for things, and some of those things line up for you, and some don't, or some to different degrees. And from what you're saying, I think that that's a lot of what you've done. You know, is to adhere to something and to have that nourish you in a certain kind of way. And then you seem to find what's next.
Yeah, like, and sometimes I felt like people would come up to me and like, hey, join this, do this. And often, like how I got to Brattleboro TV was the same way, you know, like, hey, come and join Brattleboro TV. And I was like, okay, so come and join this, okay. And, you know, and so I feel like I've said yes to a lot of, like, to life, you know. And that's brought me to a lot of beauty and a lot of personal growth and, You've
done some things with sweat lodges and being with people in that kind of way and that kind of intensiveness over the years.
Yeah. So when I first got to Vermont, I started using more video, you know, just to like pretty much to go to places for free, but also because I wanted to, you know, learn about video and storytelling. I think that's, if I could say who I am, it's like I like to tell stories, you know. So video is like the best way.
Yeah.
So I got a job filming this documentary in South Dakota, and that was my first experience with a sweat lodge, and it was powerful. It was like the most sacred gathering I've ever been to that point, and just being there was amazing. Like the Black Hills of South Dakota are just amazing, and being around these medicine wheels that are like 1,000, another one that's 10,000 years old, you know, that never left, you know, and connected to the land. And that was the first time I encountered a sweat lodge. And then last year, my dad invited me to another gathering in Mexico, and he did it for the first time, and I did it, you know, in Mexico they call it temazcal, or temazcales. And I did it. I saw my dad change with my little brother as well, and I was like, okay, I need to do this. So I was in Mexico recently, and a lot of my friends are healers. They do a lot of different kind of healing modalities, like, acupuncture, massage therapy, therapy, you name it,
Yeah.
But I want it, and I'm with them, and I feel like I'm around them in this healing. But I was like, I don't feel good about like one thing strongly.
Right.
Until I met the Temazcal, and then I was like, that's it. I can make people sweat and sing them songs and be like, So I went to Mexico. I learned how to do that with a family there. So I'm excited to like, kind of bring this new like wave of healing from Mexico to here.
Right, and you're also hearkening back to your own culture as well. So that was probably the feeling that you were getting.
Yeah.
When did you first come to Brattleboro?
2014.
And why did you come to Brattleboro?
I got lost. No, my partner Becca is from Guilford, and they were like, we met, fell in love, and they were like, I'm leaving. And I was like, oh no. And then as time got closer, she was like, you can come. And I was like, okay. So I left because I was just a clown. I was the clown in Austin, Texas. There was not a lot to lose. So I came for love.
You did.
Because of love.
But you met Becca in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
We met in a bike shop.
Oh, I didn't realize that. And for those who don't know, Becca Blessed, who's married to Ezlerh, grew up in Guilford, and she's an amazing tattoo artist. She has Ink Dog Tattoo in West Brat. And now you have a little baby.
Yeah.
Not a baby, actually. You've got a little kid.
Yeah, he's old now. His opinions. He's 2 years old.
Yeah.
So he has like all these ideas. Paco is his name.
Paco. And he's pretty cute.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he is.
But that's just because of my kids. So.
And he's in circus school a little bit now as well.
Yeah, he's like really, I just didn't know what, like, his mom is amazing at, arts and drawing, and pottery and all this stuff. And I was like, I wonder what you're going to take and, do. Because I do performance, that's.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's still not super coordinated with his hands, but he can perform. He actually has a show coming up soon with the circus school.
He does?
Yeah. So has his debut show.
That's so
with the
great.
Circus school, the toddlers.
That's so great. That's one thing. NECA again.
NECA's so cool.
It's one of our great assets.
Yeah.
When Paco was born, it was during the pandemic, right? What a time to have a baby.
Yeah, it's. I would say it was the best time to have a baby, to be honest, because nobody was doing anything. So my FOMO, I wasn't missing out on anything.
Yep.
Nobody was doing anything, but I was doing the coolest thing, So it was really fun to see this whole being, and it totally wasn't. We were not planning on having a baby, but I said yes. Well, we both said yes. Mainly Becca said yes, and so yeah, it was great. It was a great time.
Yeah.
To like just be.
You got to spend time with your baby, which very few parents get to do.
So much fun. Yeah.
Yes.
In Japan, they see their kids as an extension of themselves. Like you're not just you're an extension. You know.
Yeah.
So going into the pandemic, it felt like that. It was like, I wasn't doing, I had a job that I was able to take some time off, and even then, like I had so much time.
Yes.
So it was just like me and still, I feel like I feel like I know him. I feel like, like, oh, I see.
Yeah, right. Yes. And the community also supported you a lot.
Oh,
your
yeah,
friends.
Because nobody was doing anything.
Right,
so it was like everybody was bringing food and bringing all kinds of gifts, and he was very lucky to be born in a pandemic. I don't know, how people had that experience, but for us, it was like the best time.
You come to BCTV and you start doing production. Did you have experience with that, or did you pick it up?
I made some videos with a friend before.
Yeah.
They were funny, and I liked it, and I was like, I want to do more of that. So I just taught myself pretty much. My dad used to make videos when I was a kid, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so I just learned here.
Well, you've got your own YouTube channel for one thing.
Yes.
And it's an amazing array of different kinds of subjects. I mean, from the Tiny House Fest to May Day at Packer Corner, the Young Professionals Gala at BMAC, Root Social Justice, the Brattleboro Rock Youth Festival, soccer leagues. You've done an incredible array of things.
Yeah.
And you're fun. They're always fun.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I think that you did this for the ski jump. You go around and interview people, like it used to be called the man in the street interviews, and you'll just take a microphone and go up and talk to people, right? Yeah, you like doing that.
Yeah, it's fun to like see how people, just people are interested. People are a whole universe,
Right.
and if we just take a moment to like see who's in that room, I always think that whoever is in the room, there's a conversation to be had, and often we shine away like. You might be sitting next to somebody that's amazing, but sometimes we limit ourselves to like getting to expand, like, or be, vulnerable to like, hey, I like your shirt, oh, cool, I had the shirt, oh, no way, and there's this meaningful, conversation, but also connection.
That's right.
That I love when we capture those kinds of things on camera, but.
Yeah, and I think that's what really shows is your curiosity about people. And that you want to talk, you want to engage. And people come across, right? Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about, Ezlerh, was very recently we lost a member of our community, Jonas Frick, which many people know. He was quite a force, especially in the arts community, around your age in Brattleboro. And I never had him on the show. I didn't know about him, and I feel like it was a big loss not to be able to get him on the show. I also, from everything I've heard since he died, he strikes me as the kind of person who, if I invited him on now, he'd probably come, right? Yeah. And tell us what's going on, what he's doing in the afterworld, right? But you worked with him a little bit. You knew him.
Yeah, he was one of the first people that I met when I got to Brattleboro, and when I had my camera, like one of the first videos that I made, he was in it, like talking about one of the projects he had going on. He had so many cool things to do. He was just doing everything that came to Jonas. He would just somehow like transform it into like this beautiful art, and he was an inspiration for, I think, all of us artists in town. Like, he was just such a power of love and like, yes, do this, and like, yeah, that sounds cool. And like, I remember one time I was like, I want to make a movie about like with you and like with your like aesthetics. It was like, yeah, and he was always so present, and loving, and at the same time so talented. Like so talented and so prolific. Like such a prolific artist. And yeah, so for a lot of us, it was such a I don't know, I guess like inspiration to like, oh, what, you have cardboard, you just make it into art, And I remember the last time I was on stage with him was last year. We had this variety show, kind of talking about being vulnerable, and he did this amazing performance, and he was so loud. Like the speakers, there was something wrong with the speakers at the Hook and Dunham, and all of a sudden, like we're backstage and we're like, "What's that smell?" And like that he blew up the speakers. So he almost set the whole stage on fire. So like, turn it off. So like, had to turn it off and do the rest of the show without speakers. He was just, a force of nature. And how he passed away, I feel like, I think he would have been happy. I mean, again, it was such a big loss for all of us, and it's so, deep, the wound, and like it would never be replaced with anything. Like he has such a big hole in Brattleboro now. But I think if he would have chosen how to go, it would have been how he went, like on stage,
right?
Like perform, and then oh boy,
and then
wow,
out of here, right?
And ever since he passed away, I have to say, like, he's been such a presence in my life. Like, oh my God, like here now. If not me, then who? Like that was one of his, like, if not who was it? If not me, then who then? That was his big.
And the parade.
And the parade, oh my God, like that was like the biggest celebration of life I've ever seen in my whole life. Like it was so much beauty and art and like all of the things that he was, And I've never laughed and cried so much. And Paco
Right.
had a blast, and everybody it was just a big like moment of like, whoa,
Yes.
this human was among us.
Yeah.
He was with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were so blessed to have him.
Yeah.
As long as he was with us.
It was I've never seen anything like that in Brattleboro before. That parade, Bread and Puppet came down. Everyone was in costume. It was at least 150, 200 people. I think.
I mean, like 300 people. I don't know. It was a lot of people.
It was a lot
there was
of
a
people.
lot of people.
It was an
Yeah.
amazing day. Well, you have a new project called Grotesque Burlesque. You want to tell us about that a little bit?
Yes, I'll tell you about it. For you out here, if you want to know more about this, when I got back from Mexico, I was asked to join a group of burlesque performers. A lot of them are my friends, and they're beautiful human beings, and we're putting these burlesque shows. Grotesque Burlesque is the name of the project. And it's a variety show, you know, a lot of sexiness, a lot of like sacred sexiness, and so I've just been working out a lot, just trying to get sexy for people and you know, putting on shows.
And it'll include music and performance as well.
Yeah, so there's some of us are singers, some of us are like just dancers, some of us are, you know, it's just a really diverse group of people.
Yeah.
Different talents, and yeah, we're all of a sudden, like, I was not expecting this. I thought I was gonna be like focusing on temazcales, you know, my sweat lodges, which I'm still am, you know. But all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, like, look at this. I'm like performing now, like, so, and it was kind of vulnerable because I never performed. Like, I've always been funny and like playing music and stuff, and now I'm like, you know, performing, you know, this, like, to be sexy and, you know, kind of sensual and erotic, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And yeah.
And is this Brattleboro centric? Mostly Brattleboro performers?
I would say, I mean, there's a lot of us here in Brattleboro, but there's also performers from Northampton and Greenfield.
Yeah.
I mean, Greenfield. So
and where will the performances be? Do you know?
So we had one, you know, we've had one in Stone Church. We've had one in a New City Brewery in East Hampton. We're performing in Greenfield at 10 Forward. So it just changes.
That's great.
It changes.
Yeah. So we keep our eyes on that.
Yeah, keep an eye, like, and we'll keep being like sexy and stuff for all of you.
We look forward to that.
Good.
Ezlerh, one thing that you mentioned a couple times when we spoke the other day was going back home at some point. So you still feel that, not only that connection, but that pull.
Oh, yes. A lot of me is like, especially in the winter, is like, what are you doing here?
Yes.
And what are you doing here in Vermont? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So I like, part of me is like, I'm going to school. I'm getting a PhD on life here in the States, and specifically here in Vermont, because there's so many great teachers teaching me all kinds of lessons, and I'm growing so much, and I want to get all this wisdom and like somehow give it back to I don't know, an Ezlerh that is in there that wish had something similar, you know.
Yep.
And also at the same time, I want Paco to grow up with some identity of who he is, because you know, to be honest, like, it's hard to have culture here in the U.S. because it's such a young nation, you know.
Right.
And Mexico isn't. Mexico's such an ancient place and full of wisdom and costumes and music and that's what calls me. So I think in the future I would be like 50-50. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And April, like November to April, I'm going to guess you're going to be more south than here.
Yes. I think, November to April. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Sounds about right, right? Yeah. Ezlerh, thank you so much. This has been very much fun.
Yes.
Very much fun. And we really look forward to whatever it is you're going to do. We will keep our eyes peeled.
Thank you.
As they say, yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you folks out there for being with us and hearing about these cool things that Ezlerh is doing. Obviously, stay tuned to him. Stay tuned to BCTV, because there are so many new shows coming on. There's so many new folks doing different things that are entertaining and informative, et cetera, but always interesting. That's what Brattleboro is all about. So we will see you next time.